We have a problem with this court case that Zach Knight has brought against me, where he claims that I violated the peace treaty contract that I signed with him in November 2012 to fight the Gail android. You know, he claims in the wording that he embedded into the signature line in this contract that which I did not know about when I signed the contract, that what was secretly embedded into the signature line that I owe him brain to brain loving, that should be enforced. He also claims at his website, crazygail.com, that if he wins this case, he will be the next pope, and his first act as pope will be to make brain-to-brain loving with me. That would be a nightmare for me. Like I said, we have a problem with this case because it appears the judge for this case is incompetent. Judge Wapner, that's his name, is letting Zach play sick way too long. Zach Knight has copped out of appearing in court claiming he's sick. This means he's been sick for over 2 weeks now. First it was his allergies, then I think it was the flu. We are serious about this trial and request a new judge. We think Judge Wapner is perhaps too old for this case because he may be getting senile. Let me tell you why we've come to this conclusion. One day he showed up in court and called Judge Terrance Jenkins to his chambers. He said, "Terry, I spent all the money and can't afford to keep you on board, so I'm going to have to let you go." Terrance said, "What?" Apparently, Judge Wapner thought that Terrance worked for him when he did not. Then the next morning, he called up Terrance and said, "Hey, Terry, why didn't you come to work this morning?" Then Terrance answered with indignation and outrage, "Don't you remember? You let me go." But Terrance has never worked for Judge Wapner and feels as a judge that Judge Wapner is just a confused old man. We need a new judge. But we don't want Judge Judy, even though she wants to be the judge for this trial. She was the judge for the Matthew McConaughey and Camila Alves trial and was a very biased and pro-Jesuit judge. We had to replace her with our Judge Terrance Jenkins to have a fair trial with this Matthew McConaughey trial. And that trial ended with Jesus Christ himself showing up and zapping out of existence a lot of Jesuits in that courtroom. With the judge we have now, we may get a repeat of what happened to the Nobel Prize in Literature this past year. It went to Rule 13 for her defamatory website, crazygail.com, back in, I think it was May 2012. You may say, hey, that's not what they're saying. They're doing like a separate Nobel Prize, I guess because people like me in Rule 13 are not in the mainstream news everywhere, and maybe to protect me. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but there's like an informal and a formal Nobel Prize, and I've been winning all these informal Nobel Prizes that aren't being advertised in all of the mainstream news medias, or I did in the past. To be honest with you, I really don't care. But the reason I'm mentioning this is, let me just go further. So Rule 13 got a Nobel Prize for a defamatory website about me back in May 2012. You know how that happened? The Jesuits replaced the Nobel Prize Committee with a bunch of retards, and that's how she got it. In all fairness, the Nobel Prize was supposed to go to me, and I don't think I deserve a Nobel Prize in literature either. I think they were giving it to me for my novel, Silver Skies, which was my first novel, by the way. Not bad for a first novel. And what I had published before Silver Skies was a screenplay. You know, I became a writer because I was in love with Brent Spiner, an actor, and I wanted to write him a movie that he could star in and win all these Academy Awards. That's what I was thinking of back then. A little naive about Hollywood I was, but anyways, back to the subject. So anyways, I think they were giving it to me for my novel, Silver Skies, which was my first novel. But I actually wrote Silver Skies as a movie in my mind, and didn't master all that stuff you put in a novel besides the dialogue, the characterizations, and the plot. Dialogue is what the characters say. Characterizations, that's writer talk. That's the creation of the characters. And plot, that's the order of events in the story. Though by the time I got to the second half of my novel, Silver Skies, it got pretty good, and the second half of Silver Skies could perhaps be Nobel Prize material. If you judge Silver Skies as a screenplay or play instead of as a novel, it's pretty good. I didn't mean to do so, but Silver Skies is actually more of a screenplay than it is a novel, and screenplays just don't read well. They're meant to be seen, not read. I was very visual when I wrote Silver Skies, like a screenwriter. You know, I was thinking like a screenwriter when I wrote Silver Skies because I had not evolved from my screenwriting mindset when I wrote it. My men all think Silver Skies is a masterpiece and deserves the Nobel Prize, but that's because most of them are actors, and they probably read the book and filled in all that stuff that I should have written in there, you know, in their minds, like they do when they read a screenplay before they're getting ready to go on the set and do their acting, you know, like Gerard Butler, Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Jackman. Those are my men. Brent Spine. They're all actors, you know. There are other things too, but they're actors too. Oh, by the way, actors are pretty smart. Don't let people think. Gerard Butler's got an MD in psychiatry, and Brent Spiner's got an MD. Matthew McConaughey went to law school and dropped out. So these guys are not stupid. Some people think actors and actresses are dumb. They're actually, some of these people are very intelligent. Anyways, so as a screenwriter, when I wrote Silver Skies, the first half of the book reads like a movie. I mean, like you're reading a screenplay. And then when I got good at the novel form about halfway into the book, the second half of it reads like a novel. So I most definitely did not get the Nobel Prize for my first screenplay, which was the Star Trek The Next Generation teleplay LOL that I wrote, because I was a totally green writer when I wrote that. I'd only written about 1 month, and I'm serious, when I started that. It's just that I wanted to write something for Brent because, you know, he was an actor working in Star Trek, and I said, I just got to write a script for my lover, my hero. So, you know, but so that was my first published work. It got published in a Data Brent Spiner fanzine. So because I started off as a screenwriter, that's why Silver Skies, my first novel, where I had a screenwriter mindset, is better as a movie than as a book, and why Steven Spielberg made it into a movie starring Matthew McConaughey. You may say, why didn't you write Silver Skies as a screenplay then? It's because at that time when I was working on Silver Skies, I was mad at Hollywood for rejecting my Star Trek The Next Generation teleplay LOL, which I thought had a good story for the Data character, and I didn't want to waste all my time and hard work for another rejection. I mean, I worked six months at full-time hours on LOL. Well, that's because I was a totally green writer, and I was learning the craft at the same time I was working on the teleplay. So I was mad at them for, I figured, well, you know, maybe some of my dialogue and stuff needed polishing, but I thought the story, the plot was good for the Data character. So they rejected it, and I didn't want to waste all my time and hard work for another rejection from people who were obviously biased against me. I mean, I saw some of the stuff they put up there, and I thought my storyline was better than theirs. So I suspected evil in Hollywood. I figured at least with a novel I could publish it and start building my resume as a writer. So that if, you know, I figured this is probably going to get rejected too, my Silver Sky, so let's just go ahead and just write it as a novel. At least it'll go somewhere, you know. What I found attractive about Data in 1992 was his wonderment as he learned about humanity, his innocence. But the Star Trek writers wanted to make him darker, which I hated, by the way. And the Jesuits had also taken over Paramount Studios, so LOL, my teleplay for Star Trek, did not work out. By the way, Zach Knight told us in November that he submitted a story idea for Star Trek The Next Generation to the writers, and it got accepted. I'm sure he didn't work as hard on it as I worked on my teleplay. It was a story about Troy being mind raped. I really hated that episode. I thought it was so stupid. I would look at stuff like that and think, boy, they would accept that, and they rejected mine. It's as if there's something wrong with their brains. That episode was too dark and weird for me, so I was right about evil at Paramount Studios. Zach and I are total opposites in our approach to life. Our writings show that. Rule 13 got her Nobel Prize because the Jesuits replaced the Nobel Prize committee with a bunch of retards. It was the Jesuit way to poke fun at any Nobel Prize committee that dared to try and give me a Nobel Prize. I have no hard feelings towards Rule 13 because I don't think I deserve a Nobel Prize. And I respect Rule 13 as a brave and courageous military leader, which is her role in the Jesuit order. She deserves the Military Medal of Honor, not the Nobel Prize in Literature. Long story short, the only thing that may be worse than a retard in a Nobel Prize committee is a senile old man as a judge in a very important case. I thought perhaps we could get Fox News judge Andrew Napolitano. He's Roman Catholic, but seems fair. Or we could use our own Harvard Law School graduate judge, Terrance Jenkins, who's done excellent work for us as a judge in the past. Don't let his drawl and talk make you think he's dumb. He talks that way on purpose to honor his upbringing. When he was at Harvard Law School, he adopted white people talk to pass his law school course and has an undergraduate degree in chemistry and is a member of Mensa.